Hello, my lovelies. This is a little introduction to explain the appearance of Tea and Jeopardy here on YouTube. This is a podcast that ran between 2013 and 2018, and as part of my commitment to my lovely patrons on Patreon, I maintain an archive of the podcast, which I'm now moving here, as I know lots of people enjoy podcasts through YouTube. Tea and Jeopardy won the Hugo Award for Best Fancast in 2017, and I'm very proud of the show. However, as you will discover, the sound quality is pretty bad by today's standards in the early episodes. Quite frankly, I was an amateur podcaster, making something fun to contribute to the conversations happening at the time, which featured a disproportionately small number of female voices. All details for the episode are in the description. Thank you for listening.
Tea and Jeopardy with Emma Newman. There's always time for a nice cup of tea and a spot of mild peril.
Well, hello there, my lovelies. I do hope you're well and haven't woken up to discover a crushed butterfly on your shoe and some obnoxious, overprivileged idiots in power. My name is Emma Newman, and I'd like to welcome you into my secret tea lair for a gentle half hour of polite conversation, abject geekery, a cheeky bit of cake, and, of course, a nice cup of tea. This week, the secret tea lair is in... Where are we, Latimer? I fell asleep in the airship on the way here.
The natives call it Wubnub, ma'am. The translation is Forest Moon.
What an odd name. Are these natives nearby?
Not close enough to be of concern, ma'am.
They do know we're here, don't they?
I'll see if our guest has arrived, ma'am.
Well, at least this tree house is pleasant enough, though I must say I didn't realise trees could grow so large. I hope the spiders aren't the same. I would take a seat in one of the rather small chairs dotted about in here, and Latimer will light us a fire so we'll be cosy. It's delightfully rustic, as secret tea lairs go, but as long as there is tea and cake, and of course good company, we shall survive. I do recommend that you refrain from going out onto the veranda and looking over the barrier. The ground is a horribly long way away, and can make one feel rather squiffy.
I'm sorry to disturb you, ma'am, but your guest has arrived. A Miss Jennifer Udden.
Ah, marvellous. Let's see her calling card. Jennifer Udden, book champion, heavy reader, and sometime unwilling crusher of dreams.
I crushed a dream once, ma'am.
Did you?
Someone rather carelessly left it on a chair, and I didn't notice until it was too late.
How unfortunate. There's a motif on the card. A silhouette of a human figure, seated. Oh, they're hunched over a keyboard. Looks rather uncomfortable. And it's superimposed over a giant cup of coffee.
Oh, dear.
Yes. Perhaps she doesn't drink tea. What shall we do, Latimer? Now, Latimer, what have I told you about threatening guests with that rifle? Put it away and show her in.
Yes, ma'am.
For those of you who don't know, Jennifer Udden is a literary agent with the Donald Mouse Literary Agency in New York City, representing authors of science fiction, fantasy, romance, and mystery. I happen to be one of them, but don't hold that against her.
Miss Udden, ma'am.
Hello, Jen. Do come and sit down. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Now, before we go any further, I have to ask a question about the motif on your calling card. I notice that this hunched figure is superimposed over a cup, which appears to be of the coffee variety. Do you actually take tea?
I do take tea, but I find that coffee fuels the workday slightly better.
Ah.
Especially in the morning.
Ah, good. I was worried that we would have to hurry and scramble to find a decent cup of coffee when we're such a long way away from home.
I was going to say, it might be a little bit of a long trip to the shop.
Yes. Do they have shops here, Latimer? Oh, well, never mind. So, would you care for some tea?
Yes, please.
I'll pour. Would you like a slice of Bakewell tart?
I would, but you'll have to tell me what a Bakewell tart is, because I've never had one before.
Oh, well, it's kind of a shortbread base, pastry base, and then a kind of almond paste, and then icing, and then a cherry on top.
Then yes, please. That sounds marvelous.
Wonderful. Latimer made it this morning, and he's an excellent baker. So, in my invitation, I asked you to bring a curio with you. What have you decided to bring today?
Well, I was actually a little bit indecisive, and so I brought two and just decided to hedge my bets. The first one, since it is a lovely tea meeting, is actually one of those little metal containers for loose leaf tea.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah, well, I think so. But it's shaped like a 19th century diving bell person. Like someone who goes diving under the... It's almost like an astronaut, but not quite.
That's so cool.
But, you fill him with tea, and he goes diving in the mug of water.
Oh, it's very Jules Verne.
Yes, very, very Jules Verne. I thought it was apropos.
And what was the other one?
The second item is something that I won at a video game arcade many years ago with my godsister, but it reminds me of Max, the Arbiter from The Split World, because he's a little duck. He's a little duck wearing a fedora. It's like a little one of the sort of ducks you have, at bath time, but he's wearing a little fedora and looking quizzical.
Oh, that's so cute. I mean, Max is a rather ugly fellow. I wouldn't say he's duck-like, but I do appreciate the sentiment. That's cute.
Thank you. Well, I couldn't decide, so I figured I'd bring both.
So, what do you look for in a good book is the question that I obviously have to ask you. Being a literary agent and being immersed in the world of books, what do you look for in a good one?
I look for a story that reaches out and sort of takes me by the lapel and doesn't let go. And that can come in many different forms. It really just depends on, does the story keep me reading? And the characters have to be people that I, want to spend time with and whose struggles I really am gripped by. I have to be rooting for them. Even if they're bad guys, I have to be rooting for them.
Yeah, sometimes it's very pleasant to root for a bad guy, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your favourite book? Do you have a favourite?
Oh, it changes day by day. I would say that the book that I have reread the most often in the past 5 or so years is a mystery novel called Gaudy Night by a woman named Dorothy L. Sayers, who wrote in the 20s and 30s. She was a contemporary of Agatha Christie. But Gaudy Night is set at a women's college in the days before World War II, and it's about her main detective, Lord Peter Wimsey, coming to realize that the woman that he's been in love with and has been chasing for 4 books is truly the love of his life, and it's about them deciding to sort of make a go of it, even though all the odds are against them. And then there's a juicy mystery as well, but it's one of those books that I reread at least once a year.
So I guess the mystery element loses its power if you reread, but the romantic element doesn't. Exactly.
The mystery element in this book, bless her heart, it was sort of almost secondary, because by the time this was, I think, not the last book she finished, but the second to last. It was the second to last that featured these 2 characters. And by the time this book rolled around, they were almost more of comedy of manners, almost, rather than mysteries. The mysteries were not as important as whether Harriet Vane and Peter Wimsey were going to finally get hitched. The last book in the series, they go on their honeymoon, and for their honeymoon, they've bought this beautiful old Tudor mansion that Harriet's wanted to live in all her life, and they move in, and the day after their wedding night, they find the old owner dead in the basement.
Well,
and he's been dead the entire time they've been there, and they had their wedding night while he was lying on the floor of the basement.
Ew!
I know.
Ew, stinky. So, there's another agent I follow on Twitter called Juliet Mushins. I don't know if you follow her as well. She represents kind of all of my friends, I think. She's kind of collecting them like Pokemon on Twitter. And she said something which I quite liked the other day. Yeah, got to get them all. So she said if they ever produced an Ask Agent teddy bear, when you squeezed its middle, it would say, "Finish your book." So if you could make a Suddenly Jen teddy bear, what would yours say when you squeeze its middle?
Oh, gosh. Would this be a Suddenly Jen agent teddy bear or a Suddenly Jen me and my personal life teddy bear, or both?
Well, I think we can have both, seeing as you've established the precedent with 2 curios. You can have 2 bears.
All right. Okay, I have 2 bears. Or maybe I have a bear with personality, split personality. I suppose the agent part would say, read the submission guidelines.
Ah, yes.
Although that might be a little bit hard to get onto one of those little chips that they put inside teddy bears.
And what about the other one?
Oh, the other part. I guess it would be, oh man, this is a very tricky question. I'm going to have to have a slice of cake and think about this. It would probably be come and sit down here by me, because I'd love to talk to people. I love to hear their stories. I'm a chatterbox.
Oh, I think that's very nice. I think that's very homely.
Well, I don't think that I can actually claim complete credit for it because I think it's from Steel Magnolias, because there's a part in that movie where someone says, "If you don't have anything nice to say, just come sit down here by me."
Okay.
Insight to gossip, but without the gossip part.
Cool. So people often talk about how tough it is in New York, that the people are very hard there. There's like that Sunscreen song which says live in New York until it makes you hard and live on the other coast until it makes you soft. But I don't want to talk about how kind of tough the people may be in New York. I'd like to ask you the kindest thing or the best random act of kindness you've seen in New York.
Well, something that I've actually seen several times, actually many times in the 5 years that I've lived here, is when you're going up and down the subway steps, because most of the subway stations don't have escalators or elevators, and there will often be an elderly person with a bag or a suitcase, having a little bit of trouble, or even a woman with a stroller or something like that. And it's a very common sight to see someone help that person down the stairs or up the stairs with their heavy load until they can get to the street. It always warms my heart.
Even in New York?
Even in New York.
Did you see there's a video going around which is kind of like a compilation of snippets from those dashboard cameras that people have in their cars in Russia of all of these random acts of kindness that have been captured on them over the years? It made me cry.
I saw a similar one that was from security cameras that I definitely was most certainly not weeping at my desk.
No, not crying at all.
Completely dignified. There were no tears.
What was the last book that made you laugh out loud?
Oh, the last book that made me laugh out loud. It was probably a book called Girls in White Dresses by Jennifer Close. It's a piece of women's fiction. It's pretty short, and it's interconnected stories about a group of friends after they graduate from college. As they all start getting married, none of the narrators of the stories are engaged or married, but it's sort of, I laughed because some of the situations were really, really funny. I mean, there was one where the story was about a woman who had 7 different bridal showers, and her friends were so fed up they eventually stopped being her bridesmaids because they didn't want to throw her another shower.
I was wondering, is that because she had 7 different weddings, or was she just obsessed with showers?
No, she had one wedding. She was obsessed with showers, and she was obsessed with, it's my day, you have to do what I say, I'm getting married. And then eventually they all just revolted because they didn't want to do it anymore. But I laughed because it reminded me so much of my life after graduation and sort of the craziness that happens. It's a really funny book.
We don't tend to have bridal showers over here.
Because you're a sensible people.
I don't know if it's that. I think that they'll probably start happening because they've started to have proms here.
No.
Which is definitely American. And I can't imagine anything worse, actually, that could possibly happen in one's late teenage years. Are they actually awful, or are they not too bad?
I went to 3 proms when I was in high school, and 2 of them were fine, and one of them was the worst night of my life. So I think it depends on the school, it depends on the prom, but mostly it's a lot of pressure and a lot of expense for a night that it's almost like people feel like they have to go because everyone has always gone.
I think that that's probably one of the main drivers of the phenomenon over here is the commercial aspect.
Yeah, get a teenager to spend hundreds of dollars on a fancy dress. I did look fabulous at all the time, too, so.
Whenever I'm going to get somebody into the tea lair, I always ask the Twitters what they would like me to talk to that person about. And someone raised something which as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh my goodness, yes, of course. It's about your Twitter avatar.
Oh, yes.
And I have to say that when I was suffering the agony of not knowing whether you were going to represent me or not when you were looking at my work, and I obviously, as all authors do, I went online, I went to find you and secretly stalk you whilst you were still making your mind up. I hope that doesn't creep you out. I found you on Twitter.
It does not creep me out.
Oh, that's all right then. I should imagine that some agents do that to authors that they're thinking of representing. It's entirely mutual stalking.
It's entirely mutual. Entirely mutual.
Oh, that's all right then. Well, when I found you and I saw a picture, a very, very nice painting of Jesus cuddling a velociraptor, I thought, I would like this lady to represent me.
I'm glad that was an inducement rather than a turn-off. I've had that avatar ever since I joined Twitter, I think.
When was that?
I joined Twitter in 2009, I think. It was when I was still at my old job, and I didn't tweet about anything but TV, I think, for the first 6 months that I had it. And I didn't want to have my face on it. But then once I became an agent and I started picking up followers, it became a recognizable thing. So now I don't think I can ever change it.
Yeah. Where did it come from?
Honestly, I don't know. I think I'm a big fan of dinosaurs. I'm a big fan of Jurassic Park, and so I think it just came out of. I think someone emailed it to me and said I saw this and thought of you. And when I was looking for something as my Twitter avatar, I didn't have any real pictures of myself that I could use, so it's like I'll just use this funny little picture of Jesus in the Velociraptor. So.
I think it's wonderful. I love it.
My parents are not the biggest fans.
Oh, are they? Oh, dear. Oh, dear. I think it's lovely.
Oh, good. Yes, they think it's a little flippant to use our Lord in a Twitter avatar. So.
Well, I think he was quite a dude, and I'm not sure that he would worry. I'd like to think that anyway.
He turned the water into wine at that party. I think he'd be fine.
Yeah, and if there was anyone who was going to be able to kind of snuggle with a velociraptor and be really chilled out about it, I'm sure it would be him.
Exactly.
So somebody else said that I should ask you about outer space and how frighteningly outer it is. I think that might have been within the context of this film Gravity that's coming out.
Yes, but also outer space is really terrifying. It's amazing, but it is terrifying because you could get flung off into it and never come back and then explode because of the vacuum of space. It's always been a thing that has fascinated and terrified me.
Have you seen, there's an old Sean Connery film, is it called Outland? I'm not sure, where people frequently explode because they're exposed to the vacuum of space. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that, but I did see when I was, younger, as I'm sure everyone did, Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks and Bill Paxton, where I remember when they were about to try that experiment where they were going to slingshot them around the moon. And I was just like, you are kidding me. These astronauts are going to die.
I haven't seen that.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's based on a true story in which, spoiler alert, everyone lives, but it was terrifying when that movie came out and I was watching it. I was just like, I am not sure that these guys are going to make it. Do you know the story of Apollo 13?
Yeah, I know loosely. So are you going to go and see Gravity, or is it too scary?
I am going to go see Gravity, because even though it scares me, I still really want to see it. I'm not one of those people who knows what's good for them. I'm going to see it, and then I'm going to go back to my apartment, and all the lights will be on. And I'll sit there sort of...
gibbering and rocking backwards and forwards slowly.
A little bit.
I think... Well, I think I know that there are several people who are probably going to listen to this who would very much like to be represented by you or any other reputable agent Is there anything in particular that you're looking for at the moment?
Ooh. Well, currently, I would love to see an original YA. It could be fantasy, it could be science fiction, but just a YA with a really original world. Because I think that a lot of the YA I read feels a little bit like a retread of things that have come before. So a really original, meaty YA would be top of my dream list at the moment.
Cool. And is there anything that you see in query letters that just makes you want to immediately rage quit and run off into the distance?
So many. I think one of the things that I see the most often is people don't start the story in the right place, because they'll start it with someone waking up from a dream or something like that, and then when I reject them because the first 5 pages of their book are boring, they say, but it gets really good in like 10 pages. So my answer to that is, well, then start it 10 pages later and see what kind of reaction you get. Because oftentimes, if people are getting a response saying that the beginning is too slow or not compelling, it's that the story just isn't begun in the right place.
I think that part of that is when we're writing that we have to kind of settle in as well, and that people get attached to that settling in material that's produced at that time.
Mm-hmm. I'm not unsympathetic, but at the same time,
it has to be good.
One has to read it. It does.
Well, the Bakewell tart has almost gone, especially when you needed that extra slice to answer the bear question. And the teapot is empty. It's been a delight to have you here today. And Latimer will show you the way out across that rather unsteady-looking rope bridge over there, but I'm sure you'll be fine.
Oh, yes. And I suppose if you don't hear from me in a few days, just call someone at the agency and they'll have my things sent around.
Wonderful. Well, take care now. And I will hopefully see you online soon.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, what a lovely visitor, wouldn't you say, Latimer?
Yes, Mum.
There she goes across the bridge to the other tree platform. Her pocket is bulging. I'm sure I would have noticed that before.
I didn't want to say anything, Mum, but you have eaten a rather large amount of cake.
I had a very modest amount, unless... Oh, what's that noise, Latimer?
Oh, dear.
That isn't the natives, is it?
I'm afraid so, Mum. By the sound of it, they're quite angry. But at least they'll reach your guest before our treehouse.
Did you not get their permission to borrow the treehouse?
One does not negotiate with the natives here, Mum. They are quite ridiculous.
How rude. I'm sure... Oh, I can see one. Why? He looks just like a teddy bear. How adorable. Cuddly teddy bear natives.
With spears, Mum.
Oh, yes. Well, she's managed to get to the basket, but they've surrounded her. What will Jen do? Oh, she's throwing cake at them.
That's my Bakewell tart.
Very cunning. They'll be distracted by the icing.
Oh, the humanity.
Well, they've cut the basket's rope. However will she get down to the ground? That Bakewell tart won't hold them off for long. Oh, one of them has grabbed her.
What an unconventional use of an umbrella. It seems to have scared them off for a moment.
She's making a new rope from her coat, and her jacket, and her shirt. Look away, Latimer. She's going to lower herself to the lower branches with it by the look of things. Oh, they've noticed we're here. They're crossing the bridge.
Perhaps this would be the appropriate time to board the airship, Mum. It's tethered above us, and a rope ladder is waiting.
But what about Jen? We can't just abandon her.
Not to worry, Mum. She's an agent. She can take care of herself.
Not that sort of agent, Latimer.
She's using her umbrella as a makeshift parachute. I'm sure she'll be fine. I'll barricade the door and then pack, Mum.
Well, whilst Latimer is clearing away our tea set, I'd like to thank you for joining the daring Miss Udden and I today. The next time we take tea together, we'll be joined by Dave Bradley, Editor-in-Chief of SFX magazine. Last week, I asked for advice on what to do should I happen upon a gentleman in a grey jumpsuit covered with slime in a New York hotel. I'd like to raise my teacup in respect to Emma, not myself, I hasten to add, who suggested I talk about the weather and offer the poor chap a cup of tea from my handy travelling flask. I did like Paul's suggestion to give him my towel, as I always know where mine is, and replacements would be readily available at a hotel. However, I felt emergency tea and a soothing conversation about unseasonal rain would be far more comforting. Before we all climb up the rope ladder, I'd like to ask a question about a chap I saw dash out of a phone box the other day. He was wearing an outfit far more colourful and daring than the slimy hotel gentleman. However, he had his underpants on outside of his trousers. He did seem to be in a terrible hurry. Perhaps he didn't notice. Dear listeners, is this a new fashion? Or should I make him aware of the mistake the next time I see him? All suggestions are welcome, particularly the outlandish and comedic. Do be dears, and leave your answers at www.teaandjeopardy.com. I'll pick the best one and share it with you the next time we take tea. Oh, it looks like we're ready to go.
If you'd care to step on the rope ladder, ma'am, I'll hold it still for you.
Latimer, I don't need to tell you that this tea lair is not suitable. Please find a new one, preferably a long way away from anyone else.
Very good, ma'am.
You've just listened to an episode of Tea and Jeopardy, hosted by Emma Newman. Go to www.teaandjeopardy.com to find out more and join in.